Hello and welcome back. My name is Connor Tumblin. I serve in the investment committee here at the Retirement Guys Formula, and today I'm going to be sharing with you one of my favorite strategies called SMid Capital Growth. But first, here are our disclaimers, and if you'd like, you can take a minute and pause the video, and you can feel free to read through all of them. And now an overview of SMid Capital Growth. This is an all-stock portfolio that strives for aggressive growth. It invests in small and mid-sized companies with strong balance sheets, and by this we mean they have high cash levels of over $100 million in their bank account. They have low long-term debt to equity ratios of less than 30%, and they have a high return on equity level of over 15%. This portfolio has a risk score of 91, which would make it very aggressive, and this is an objective metric generated by the software Riskalyze. The number is based on the level of potential downside risk that the portfolio faces, and it ranges from 0, which would be very safe, to 100, which would be very risky. So at a 91, this is a very aggressive, very risky portfolio. And finally, it's updated at our investment committee's discretion. So what I mean by this is holdings are switched in and out to ensure that they still fit the portfolio's methodology. So does it have high enough cash? Does it have low enough debt? Does it have high enough returns on equity? We look at these things among others. And then also the weightings of the holdings are rebalanced to make sure that some aren't outgrowing others, and we just keep an equal weighted portfolio. So here's why I like this portfolio so much. Wouldn't you like to have gotten in on the ground floor of companies like Apple or Amazon or Microsoft? Each of these companies brought something completely new to the market that the world didn't even know it needed yet. So Apple brought smartphones, Amazon brought e-commerce, Microsoft bought business applications and more. Or maybe they didn't even introduce these things to the market, but they monetized it so well. So we see these companies as the $1 and $2 trillion behemoths that they are now, and even closer to 3 trillion for Apple. But they, like all other companies, had to start from nothing. So in the SMid Capital Growth portfolio, we attempt to identify these game-changing companies. So now for a portfolio highlight to show you what we mean, identifying potential future leaders. So in this portfolio, we have companies that develop human interface hardware and software that connects people to the devices that they're using. Some of these products that this includes, they offer finger biometrics, touch sensing, voice processing, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. And this is new technology that didn't exist even 20 years ago. So because of this, there's huge growth potential in a world where we're increasingly connected to the technology around us. And then another highlight is fun during COVID. So what recreational companies benefited from Americans being cooped up at home during the pandemic and also in this post-pandemic world? So do you know anybody who bought a boat, an ATV, or a pool table during COVID or recently? These companies are the types of small and mid-sized companies that we've included in the portfolio. And of course, we're still trying to find companies that have strong balance sheets with their high cash, low debt, and high returns. So the pandemic sparked interest in these types of products, and we believe the interest will continue to grow. Now more for the portfolio's tendencies. With a beta of 1.15, this portfolio is much more volatile than the S&P 500. And for reference, a beta of 1.0 means it moves in strong correlation to the market. So at 1.15, a 1% move for the S&P 500 would imply a 1.15% move for the SMid Capital Growth portfolio. During periods of high growth in the market, SMid Capital Growth tends to outperform the general market. And this is just because these are smaller companies and they have a lot more room to grow than those $1 and $2 trillion behemoths that we mentioned before. But during a broader downturn, SMid Capital Growth tends to underperform the market, dropping more. And this is just because they're at an earlier point in their life of a company and they're more vulnerable to these economic hardships and they face greater downturns. So finally, this portfolio makes for a nice addition to an otherwise safe portfolio. Normally, we won't recommend going all in on SMid stocks due to their very high risk level. But what they do is they spice up potential returns in exchange for an elevated risk level. And now for the portfolio statistics, these numbers are generated also by the software Riskalyze, and they represent with 95% certainty the likely range of returns over the next 6 months using historical data. So during, say, 2020 or 2021, when things are going really well, in the next 6 months, you might expect this portfolio to be up almost 38%. But say during the year 2022, in the first half of this year at least, things have been very rocky, the markets have gotten crushed, and you might expect to be down as much as about 26%. But again, this is only a 95% probability, and it doesn't include the crazy outliers, say maybe during like COVID. The portfolio has a distribution rate of 1.98% on an annualized basis, so this provides some pretty good income. And it has a 0 expense ratio since it's an all-stock portfolio, and this doesn't take into account your management fees that you pay to your advisor, the Retirement Guys formula. So the key takeaways for the SMid Capital Growth portfolio is that it's great for people looking for aggressive growth opportunities. But to get this aggressive growth, you're going to have to accept a very high risk level. And finally, since it's an all-stock portfolio, there's no additional expenses beyond management fees, and this would be assuming that you're using a no transaction fee account at Schwab, which would be standard with our firm. So finally, let's get in touch. If this portfolio is of interest to you, I would encourage you to reach out to the professional who showed you this video, or you can just call us here at the Retirement Guys formula at 419-842-0550. Our headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. So thanks again. Thanks for joining us. I'm Connor Tumblin, here from the Retirement Guys formula, talking about the SMid Capital Growth portfolio. Have a great day, and we look forward to getting in touch.